Before I sit down, I want to conclude on a subject very dear to my heart, and that is forestry policy. I again, this afternoon, take the opportunity, I think now for the third time, to condemn the federal Labor Albanese government for its shady, disgusting deal that it connived with the Greens on the second and last day of the sitting of the federal parliament. It is a gutting betrayal of Tasmanian timber communities, families and workers. I have seen this before on two occasions. I have seen it in 2004 when Mark Latham attempted to shut down the entire native forest sector with a massive cheque, which was rejected by the then Labor government, to its credit, and the people of Tasmania at the election. So we got out of that one. We then saw it again I think in 12-13 with the disastrous Tasmanian Forest Agreement, a terrible name for a terrible policy, which went through this House and the Parliament and was agreed despite the huge protests of the Liberal opposition against the then Labor Green government. We lost that battle, but we recovered when Will Hodgman was elected Premier and we tore up that terrible deal. And the forest industry has, throughout all of these years, progressively improved its performance and including its environmental performance, but it never gets the credit for it. And in the estimates to do with, in the scrutiny hearing to do with Sustainable Timbers Tasmania, we heard about the extraordinary statistics around regeneration in our native forests. 99.5% regeneration. I made the challenge to Minister Ellis. Let's hear more about that. Tasmanians only hear the negative. Let's hear more about it. And unfortunately for this round 3, it appears that we've also lost, because the law has been changed and it happened within 24 hours. Does that meet anybody's standard in this House? Even if you're one of those who's cheering it on, does that meet your standard when the government brings in major changes into this House? No, it doesn't. We've always had a 2-day rule and you demanded 6. But no, that disgraceful deal was done overnight and it was in law by Friday morning from Wednesday night.
Shameful.
It is a shame. It is shameful. And my first thoughts are not political. My first thoughts are for the people who will pay the price. And there will be many. I always think about the people who have the least, the greatest distance to this chamber. They're the ones who will be hurt the most. I'll say this very carefully, and it won't be the captains of industry that hurt the most, because there's all these cheques being promised. It's the families. It's the mums and dads. It's the small businesses. It's those regional communities who will feel this pain. They won't be getting fat cheques. They will be cast aside, as they were in 2012-13. There will be foreclosures. There will be auctions. There will be difficult meetings with bank managers. And there will be people lining up for the dole. We can avoid this, and it should have been the mandate of a Labor government which claims to represent the worker to have done so, to have thought more of those people living in Winnaleah, Scottsdale, Ringarooma, Ledgerwood, Lilydale, Hillwood, Georgetown, Beechworth. To speak only of my electorate, Nunamara, Piper's District, and other members could go to their thoughts and think about their towns and their communities. And I won't spend too much time, but I will make the point, it will affect our city economies as well. It always does. And I believe that this House should rise up and stand against that decision and work together to see it reversed. We have the capability, perhaps Labor and Liberal working together, we have the capability to tell Canberra, no. We'll raise the middle finger to Canberra on this one. We're not having it. You've betrayed our state and you're going to hurt our communities, and we will not stand for it. The comments made by the Environment Minister Watt and the Forestry Minister Collins are totally unsatisfactory. You cannot provide a reassurance sentence that includes the words 18 months. 18 months is not plenty of time for this industry to meet your new standards, which have not even been published. A large percentage of 5,700 jobs in this industry are dependent and will be affected by that decision taken in Canberra on that Wednesday night. TFPA CEO Nick Steele, Tasmanian Forest Products Association, said that he'd had a meeting with the ministers, those two ministers I've named. But he said it was appreciated, but it exposed gaps in the federal government's proposal, gaps that could jeopardise jobs, investment and Tasmania's future timber supply. And he says today's roundtable confirmed exactly what our industry feared. We are 18 months from sweeping legislative change and the federal government still cannot clearly explain what it means for Tasmania's regional forest agreement. Our sector cannot operate on vague assurances or political talking points. We need to know precisely where in the legislation the RFA is protected in black and white, because without that certainty, the entire forestry supply chain is at risk. I conclude with his statement. Forestry is not something you can switch on and off. The RFA underpins all timber and fibre production, native regrowth, plantations, private growers, harvesting contractors, mills, and the manufacturing businesses that rely on local supply. If the RFA is weakened or thrown into doubt, it has real and immediate consequences for thousands of Tasmanians. And I thank Mr Steele for his forthright comments. And there's no romance or exaggeration going on about it. He speaks the truth. And I stand with those forestry workers at all points of the supply chain. I'm proud of them. I'm sorry for them. I'm sorry that every 10 to 15 years this happens to them. My side of politics has stood resolute. I congratulate Susan Lee and the federal opposition for standing firm against those changes, despite the fact that they've gone through. And I'm proud of my government that I'm part of, that stands with those workers. And we will not give up. I will not give up. And I thank the House for listening to my contribution on this very important subject.
Thank you.